Section 1.6c, anatomical terms, specifically planes. So when we look at the human being, we can look at them in 3 dimensions. So y, x, and z, however you want to name them. Well, in anatomy, we actually name them very specifically. If we slice you down the middle here, actually, it's not necessarily down the middle, but any kind of slice that slices you into right and left, we call that a sagittal plane or a sagittal cut. If it's right down the midline here, remember, medial, lateral. So if we cut you medially here, that's called the mid-sagittal plane. Now, that's not in a textbook, but you need to know it. So sagittal cuts cut you into right and left. And a typical sagittal cut or a sagittal view will be a diagram of a human being cut into right and left and turned around so you can see inside them. Okay? Again, sagittal plane. Easy way to remember is if you've ever taken wood shop or done any kind of carpentry using a bandsaw. Never, ever, ever let your head sag into the bandsaw blade. Otherwise, it will cut you into right and left. Sagittal. The next one cuts you into superior and inferior. And we call that a transverse plane or a transverse cut. And it can be at any level. Okay? That's transverse. The third and last one is the frontal cut or coronal cut. Frontal plane, coronal plane. And those slice you into anterior and posterior. Okay? Into front and back. One thing I forgot to mention was that this is mid-sagittal, right along the midline. Anything else is what we call parasagittal. Okay? So, one more time. Sagittal, coronal or frontal, transverse. Now, what do we do if we have an organ and we don't know what is right and left, what is top and bottom, what is front or back? Okay? So these planes are not in the textbook, but I'd like you to know them, please. First one, if we have an organ, let's say it's like a hot dog, for example, hot dog shape, or like a femur. Okay, if we don't know the orientation, we don't know front, back, right, left, but we know we want to slice it lengthwise, so along the long axis. We call this kind of a cut or this kind of a slice longitudinal. And you can think of it like slicing a hot dog, cutting a hot dog in half lengthwise, or splitting a banana in half to make a banana split. So that's longitudinal. The second one slices like this. So perpendicular to the long axis. And we call that a cross-section, a cross-sectional slice. So like this. Slice, slice, slice. And the last one we're going to look at is any slice that is not along the long axis and not perpendicular to that. So by definition, that would be on a diagonal. Slice, slice, slice. So the term we use to describe these kinds of slices are oblique.